Yeah, good afternoon, good morning, depending on in which time zone you are. Welcome to today's webinar by Dallmayr. Um, Very short view on the agenda, or maybe we start with an introduction first. My name is Josef Braun. I run product marketing and PR for Dallmayr, and I have with me in the call my colleague Frank Salder. He's the general manager of our D-Systems subsidiary in Gladbeck, a city here in Germany, and he's also the worldwide safe city subject matter experts running most of the safe city projects here in Germany and in some other countries, helping our colleagues there with a lot of expertise and know-how. What are we going to talk about today? I want to briefly introduce you to the company Dallmayr. Who are we? What do we do? Then talk about multifocal sensor technology. What is that all about? For some of you, you might be already aware that the multifocal sensor technology based on the product Panamera is a patented technology with hopefully a number of benefits and advantages that we will talk about. A big topic in safe city environments is analytics and artificial intelligence. So we will cover a few thoughts there, some considerations, some critical ideas, but also what's already possible. And then Frank Salder will give you a few examples on that, and then also from his experience cover up and summarize what actually makes a good urban surveillance solution, what are some criteria, and then we will end with some, or finish with some practical examples, theoretical ones, and then also some real world sequences to illustrate the Panamera technology. A few household items up front. First of all, you will receive a follow-up email with a number of materials, further links, and also a link to the replay of this webinar. So there is no need to take notes or anything like that. Just lay back, sit down and relax. Hopefully enjoy the webinar today. And also for Q&A, questions and answers, we will reserve a few minutes at the end of the webinar because it's a little bit of a challenge to answer questions while we are presenting. And then one more thing that is important. We will show some real world sequences that will appear a little bit staggering, and also the resolution quality might be a bit lower. This has nothing to do with the technology. It's actually a limitation of the webinar tool that we are using today. It's optimized for bandwidth utilization, so there's a reduced frame rate per second, which does not reflect what you will see in a real world Panamera use case. Just please keep that in mind and bear with us. So talking about Dallmayr, two very important things are actually in the first bullet point here. 35 years, we are one of the, if not the oldest or most established, longest established video security technology vendors in the market, which of course means that in our core industries or verticals, which is casino, airports, logistics companies, general industry, perimeter protection, things like that, stadia, and of course, safe city, we can really look back into a wealth of know-how and experience, which of course benefits the customers in our projects a lot. There's a second term here, video information technology. What does that mean? We are at the brink of a very interesting, tipping point in technology where video technology, image capturing technologies, and analytics techniques, first and foremost, artificial intelligence, grow together. So we are at the beginning of a very exciting era, if you wish, and we as Dallmayr, we are in the middle of that. We have a huge amount of people just in software development and AI, and this is a very exciting time for all of us. Also, we at Dallmayr, we consider ourselves an innovator. We are not a follower looking into solutions that already exist and try to make them more affordable or cheaper, which is a valid business model, of course, but we are on the opposite. We are trying to innovate things. We are trying to make things easier, as our company motto is, to really create some real customer benefit and change, disruptively change things. There are a few examples here what we achieved in the past. And first and foremost, we want to talk about Panamera, which is still a unique technology, even though it's soon to be 10 years in the market. And then made in Germany. With globalization, or we might also call it made in Europe. It's the same concept, if you wish. With the trend of globalization across the planet, people thought for some time this, typical or quality seal made in Europe, made in Germany, made in the old world would fade away slowly. What we see is rather the opposite. The last bullet point here, so you see privacy and security by design. Just to share a little anecdote, last year we went to one of the biggest or largest energy providers here in Germany, and to pitch and talk about Dallmayr, propose a solution. We won at the end, of course, but it was interesting. In the very first meeting, room full of people, high-level decision makers, the first question they asked us was, what do you do for privacy and cybersecurity in your technology, and can you prove it, can you document it? Do you have technology features and processes in place that make your solutions safe and secure? And from there on, we learned really that this is a very, very big topic for many, many customers out there, more and more so. And as Dallmayr, we have more than 90% of our supply chain in our control in Regensburg, in a country that is based on the rule of law and is a democratic, pluralistic society, most likely going to be like that for a very long time. And that all plays a bigger role in making solutions really secure and take all the privacy concerns into consideration. By the way, there's also a little survey that we are going to publish shortly, and if you want to participate, it's anonymous, but you can also leave your contact data. Then you are in a raffle for 10 Amazon vouchers. You will get a link to that at the end, and we want to get the public opinion here, and may probably do a little press release on that with the results. We are present in more than 60 countries worldwide, so a real global player, if you wish. And then the last slide on actually Dallmayr as a company is here. I just want to give you a brief overview on how we look into products and solutions. We started decades ago in the recording technology, having created the first digital video recorder with motion detection, completely changing the way petrol gas stations would follow up on gasoline theft, and then came rather late into the camera market, but really bypassed a lot of technological developments with the Panamera technology, which I will talk about in a few minutes. And then, of course, with, as I mentioned before, information and video growing together, software is of the essence. We have a huge software development department. We have a modular software platform that covers a lot of things, from really advanced video management systems to incident management for police, for public institutions and entities, all the way to various applications for analytics, which Frank Salda will talk about a little bit more in a few minutes. So that's our portfolio here. And then also very important, products is one thing. At least as important is how you deal with projects. So as I mentioned already, 35 years of experience. We have our own consulting people, letting customers take part in that experience, and we can also provide either directly, like in Germany, with our D-System subsidiaries, or with highly qualified installer partners. We can provide anything from implementation of the solution all the way to really running the whole system as a service based on a rental model. And then what is also unique in Dallmayr is the way we do the testing of our solutions. Every bigger solution we set up and finalize completely in our headquarters here in Germany, called the FAT, Factory Acceptance Test process, where we actually connect every single camera. We make sure the entire system runs flawlessly, and then only then we ship it to the customer. We can help implement at the customer site with multiple thousands of cameras installations, like with our casinos in Macau. We also send people there. We have people here being trained on the systems and all that. And then on the planning side of the house, we have a team of dedicated 3D engineers who do the entire planning of any project, creating a digital twin of the environment. And to give you an example how that works, in the last World Championship in Russia, we were very proud that we won 9 out of 12 stadiums in Russia, and we did all the planning there, making sure the grandstand security or safety is covered with our systems. And then only a few weeks before the actual tournament started, the Ministry of Interior in Russia decided that they want to have a different safety setup, and that was they wanted to have glass roofs above the VIP grandstand. So you can imagine that, like 2-3 meters protruding glass surfaces about 40 meters long, depending on the stadium. And of course, something like that completely changes your planning situation and the setup of the cameras, the angles, and so on. And with our 3D team here, it took us only 2 days in planning for all the 9 stadiums to change the planning approach and come up with a new concept, having those Tribune covers in place. So much on the planning here, or how we approach projects. And then now to the main topic of today, Panamera multifocal sensor technology. What you see here on the left camera is you see 8 actual cameras within one camera, or sensors. That's where the multi comes from. And each of those sensors is typically, by the way, there's various models available. We're not going to talk about that, with different angles, some for wide long distances, like which you use for perimeters, and then there's other models with a wide angle that you use more for surfaces and spaces. But all of them have multiple sensors in there, and each of those sensors has a different a focal area, and with that we can cover large spaces with different focuses across the entire space. What you can see here, 1 to 8, are those sensors. We have 3 sensors in the very back. We have another 3 sensors a bit further in the front. We have a 7th sensor for the area really in the front, and an 8th one covering the lower bit and also the entire area. And with that, we make sure that we cover a large spatial area with a defined pixel density that we can predefine in every project. And for those of you who are not aware about that, there's a DIN norm for that, giving you exactly the pixels per meters, 250, 125, and so on, with a certain quality level. So what does it mean in practice? It's of course not something that is with video that is really carved in stone. But when we have 250 pixels or more, that level identified, the green one here, that basically means that when you have an event and you go to court, it's 99% sure that the judge will say, okay, the person that sits in front of me is or is not the person that I see on the video footage. Recognize is a little bit lower. And then what is also relevant here, apart from recognizing people and have court usable evidence, is also when we talk about analytics. When you go 62.5 actually pixels per meter or above, we know that the AI-based object classification system can identify and distinguish objects of the size of a person, a bicycle, a car. Okay, and then so depending on what actually your requirements are, you can then, with our 3D planning approach and with the Panamera system, make sure that you have the required pixel density across your entire area. And what you can see here with the comparison is that when you use a single sensor megapixel camera, of course, the further back you are, the less resolution you have. And that is the major difference how we work with multifocal sensor technology. And there's of course a lot of know-how behind it and intellectual property. That's why it's patented, because the key to success is basically, and I could talk for an hour, but the key elements are: how do you fix those 8 sensors in a camera system? so that they really work together and are calibrated and so on. And the second thing is the software side of the house, the firmware in the camera, how to make sure that stitching works. And also you get the functionality that I will show in a second. Coming to that, we put a little slightly provocative marketing piece in place. It's a little tabloid. We'll also send it to you via email afterwards. Camera manufacturer recommends fewer cameras, well, which is kind of on the first view against the business model. If you are a camera manufacturer, you say you need less of those. But to explain this a little bit, what we mean, what we see here is a bird's eye view of the square in front of the cathedral in Cologne. And as this is a worldwide webinar, I will explain a little bit about that. In the New Year's Eve 2015, there were serious riots going on in the city of Cologne in that very area, which are approximately 9,000 square meters. And what police found out with very many, there was sexual assaults and robbery and what have you, no need to go into details there. But after the fact, the police in Cologne went out to various vendors and asked, hey, can we have a solution? The video footage we had with the existing old systems doesn't give us any evidence. There was not, as far as I know, not a single or maybe a handful of court cases afterwards out of a few hundred violations. And I said, can you help us there? And then various vendors brought in their solution ideas. The magenta, the pink one that you can see here is the bird's eye view of those 9,000 square meters. And that is each yellow dot is a mounting point. And that was an alternative solution with about 145 cameras. Some of them also would have had to be screwed against the walls of the Cologne Cathedral, which is obviously a major monument in this country, and people wouldn't have been too excited about that as a side note. And then on the right hand side, the green picture is what actually we did from Dahlmeier. And what you see here is 2 mounting points and a total of 8 cameras, one with 5 and the other one with 3 cameras to cover the entire area of, as I said, almost 9,000 square meters. So that gives you an idea of the difference when you use multifocal sensor technology. And what I want to show you now here is basically a little bit on how this looks like in comparison to other technologies. Again, this is the cathedral space. This is the area that we saw in the planning. And those are the 2 camera mounting points. Those are the 5 cameras, and those are the 3 cameras that you saw on the green plan, just to give an orientation where we are. Now we want to have a look into the situation here. Let's have a look at the PDZ camera first. So let's say we want to see something really close that's happening in the background here. It's also a bit slow. That also shows you that it takes time to really zoom in into a certain detail area. And what you see is a very good resolution on the right hand side. We are 80 meters away, which is quite a distance. But the thing here is, as you can see, all the rest outside of my PDZ system is not recorded. And when I do live video surveillance, it's also not accessible for any other operators because they can't zoom in into the overall picture. So everything that's happening around there is not recorded. It goes unrecognized, undetected. So what many people do is they use a large scale, highly expensive multi or megapixel camera. Let's select the 4K one here, and we have the same situation. I can, on the positive side, have everything under control. I see and still cover and record the entire scene. But when I want to see something really in the back, it's obvious this is 86 meters, a bit closer, 62. It's very obvious that the resolution density does not at all fit my requirements. And up there, you see the distance, and then you see also the pixel density according to the DIN norm, 53 pixels per meter. This is even below the capability of an analytic system to distinguish a bicycle from a car. And then Panamera is basically all about combining the best of the two. What you see here is we are at a distance of 76 meters, and I have a very clear vision, very high resolution there, 203 pixels per meter, more than enough for my purpose here. And what's also important in a live situation, multiple operators, that's our multi-user capability, could zoom into various areas at the same time. Now, if you have a complex situation, 10 different incidents, 10 operators can have a high resolution zoom look at any of those places, and it's all recorded in high resolution. And this yellow grid shows you where the sensors are in that particular camera. So 3 in the back, 2, 1, 1, and there's a big one, or not a big one, but there's one sensor covering the entire scene. And out of those 8 sensors, we create that unique Panamera view. So I hope that was a good way to show you the difference. Just to summarize this from a bird's eye perspective again, or in general, what are the benefits of this? Of course, as you could see, we have superior optical control with that multi-user capability. What I want to know when I talk about city surveillance, of course, I would want to see the context of any incident, what happened before. And so the less cameras I need, the bigger the overview is that I have, that I can achieve, the better I can see what happened before something happened. Then it translates into operator efficiency. I mean, that's pretty obvious. Less camera views I have, less cameras, less screens, less operators, or more operators can look at many screens, and they are much more concentrated. And then there's 2 things that are, as a summary, of course, of if you wish, a consequence of the above. This is economical advantage, total cost of ownership, and then also the image quality that I need for any analytics purposes. And then just to give you an overview, an idea about that, I think the headline is very well known for everyone who's dealing with public tenders. It's never the cheapest solution that is requested. It's always the most economical solution. And there we have 3 ways how we save, very simplified, how we save money or total cost with Panamera. First of all, is infrastructure. If I have less cameras, less installation points, I need less cabling, less digging when it's a perimeter situation. In total, less infrastructure, and that means lower cost, of course. There is another element when it comes to the implementation and installation. There is no time to go into details. We also have a lot of stuff around the actual setup of the cameras. Keyword here, auto calibration. So you really have to do just a few things to get the camera up and running once it's mounted. But we also have, as I mentioned before, that whole 3D planning approach where we can create cam cards from the planning, which gives the installer exact instructions all the way up to the IP address of the camera, where to mount the camera, which angle, and so on. And we have a very innovative mounting concept. Unfortunately, we don't have time today to cover that, called Mountera, where you have only one Allen key for all mounting elements in the camera, one-way handle to pull the camera out of the box, a bubble protection, all those things that make installation much quicker and easier. And then finally, of course, the operational efficiency. When I have less screens, I have a better overview. And then when I use AI-based support systems, then of course that helps me to make things more efficient. And if you do a really rough calculation, system cost might be higher at the beginning, but already with infrastructure, you start saving. We had a big American airline here in the headquarters just recently, and they really gave us the feedback that they just looked live in the meeting. Actually, they looked into their the offers they received from other vendors and also the infrastructure providers, and they said, yeah, the system cost and the infrastructure cost together are not even half of what alternative solutions would provide. And then, of course, operating costs, fewer screens. The systems are much more productive because there's fewer screens and we have multi-user capability and all those things. And then there's a huge saving attached to this. And if you translate it, to give you a rough idea, of course, every situation is different, but when we translate this into coverage of public area footage, then we end up with something in the range of 19 euro per square meters to have a 250 pixel or more coverage. Yeah, with that, I want to talk a little bit about the first part of our little chapter on analytics. This is image quality, quality in, quality out. I mentioned that already before, and this is common knowledge. If I want to process data, the result I can get can only be as good as the input data that I provide to the system. So predictable pixel density translate directly into the quality of my output, of course. So when I can make sure that over the entire area I have a certain minimum quality, then I can also expect minimum quality or the expected quality of results. Just a few thoughts here when it comes to the whole analytics thing in general. It's extremely dynamic at the moment. Last year I attended a session in the Smart City World Congress in Barcelona, a session run by the Chief of Digital Transformation or something of the city of Belfast, and she gave quite interesting viewpoint. She said, you know, this is so dynamic, there's so many changes and innovations happening in the analytics space on the one hand. On the other hand, we have new restrictions, new ethical guidelines coming up and so on. As you all know, in the US, for example, automatic facial recognition is completely forbidden in many cities. So there's a lot of dynamic out there. And she said, we don't have a plan, we just try out things and go from there. And what we can say definitely, maybe it's a good idea with all the dynamics going on, better be prepared today, and then you have a very good input for your analytics to come tomorrow. And with that, I want to hand over to my colleague, Frank Salder, who is hopefully ready to go and will share his screen right now.
Thank you, Joshua. And I would like to show you a couple of possible applications in urban surveillance, where we look more deeply into the subject of video city surveillance. The first thing we have done was simply listen and learn from police leaders and local authorities. We spend a lot of time learning about the police requirements, and here you can see, for example, one application of the Panamera system, like classification of objects, like cars and people. And as you can see here at this cross junction, we can classify people and cars, and we also can count them even over the certain time period. And here you can see an area of about 1,500 square meters during the night times. Even in large areas, we achieve a very high precision on classification of objects. As you can see here as well, a very high ratio on classification of objects even during night times. So let me show you here in this video stream how that works in practice, the different AI modules. So here you can see the object classification in this stream. Bicycle, car, bus, with a very high precision ratio. We also have pixelization for data security. Here you can see the very high ratio of almost 100% and the pixelization of the people for data security reasons. And we also have a heat mapping of AI databases. We can count people, cars, buses, whatever, and show to the police officer how many people are at this spot at the moment, and we can also see that over a time period, which makes the works of the police officer a little bit easier. These are the apps in AI we have available at the moment. You will get this information right after the webinar via web link. So now let's come to the solution for city surveillance. What makes a good solution for city surveillance? After many discussions and analyses with cities, police headquarters, and other authorities, so we have developed a concept for city surveillance with our Panamera system. Our experience over the last 5 years has been incorporated into the development of this concept. And one thing I want to re-emphasize was just with what Joshua mentioned before. We just need one Panamera camera to cover an area of 1,000 square meters. And for an area of 8,000 square meters, like the place in Cologne, right in front of the train station, you would need 140 standard cameras, and the result even would not wouldn't be satisfactory. Apart from the installation cost and the infrastructure cost, which will explode with 140 standard cameras. You can imagine that. What are the other criteria for a good video surveillance concept in Safe City? Due to the limited human resources, that's what we have learned of the authorities, it is crucial to be able to operate with as few observers as possible. Research times must be minimized by reducing the number of cameras. Less data is the key word. Investigation times must be minimized by intelligent search of incidents, smart view, and a minimum resolution to be successful in law enforcement is 250 pixels per meter, which means identification on the whole area of an unknown person. Some other criteria we have learned over the last years. The cameras doesn't have to be operated. Panamera records the complete area without being operation like you need to do with the PDZ cameras. You need operators to operate the PDZ camera. Another pretty important point was to preserve the cityscape by reducing the number of cameras. You can imagine it's quite a big difference between installing 140 cameras on one place rather than having 8 Panamera cameras on that place. Another point also was the new automated wrapping of the Panamera during demonstrations. For those countries who have quite tough data security regulations, we have invented the automated wrapping system. You will see that right afterwards. Don't forget, we need one Panamera. Approximately 4,000 square meters is already sufficient for area-wide detection with at least 250 pixels, which means identification of an unknown person. Let me show you some real-world examples. Out of the 19 major cities we have equipped with our Panamera video surveillance system, I want to give you a short overview about 3 major cities out of the 19 we have equipped. One of them is, the first one is Cologne, with the astonishing 75,000 square meter, and we just needed 60 Panamera cameras to cover the whole area with a minimum of 250 pixels. And as you can see, also smaller cities using our systems, like Hanau with 24,000 square meters and 22 Panamera, and also Wiesbaden with 60,000 square meters and 50 Panamera cameras. And now I have brought you some sequences I want to show to you.
So, all right, there's one example. For example, when you want to make a research, I just marked and delimited the area I want to make a research, and I just want to see people who are walking through that spot here. So that limits absolutely your time in order to find some incidents. So you can see it's just this area, and it saves a lot of time in order to find the people back on, let's see, on a 3-hour track. So, and now you're going to show you, for example, from Berlin, another clip which we made 3 years ago when we had the order of the police department to observe an event. So that was during the night times, and I apologize for the bandwidth. We run that usually with 25 frames per second, which allows you even fast movements to show. So, but now you can see maximum of 5 pictures per second. So it's a bit bumpy probably, but it will be enough to show you how the system works. So at this point here, you can see from the mounting point of the camera until that bus here, it's around 124 meters. So, and even you can recognize the license plate, and you can see here the whole scene will be still recorded, which is a really a big advantage. So, and another advantage is, for example, if you go into a pretty dark scene, due to the different sensors, it's not dark again. You just zoom in, and you still have colored recordings. So this is approximately 90 meters away from distance away from the mounting point of the camera. Still colored pictures and recordings. So I show you a last clip from my side that you can have another impression during daytimes, how that works. This is an area of about 1,500 square meters. So let me zoom you in. You can see that you now have a detailed view here, and see that person here cruising around here. So you know, this is just to give you an idea. It's 130 meters away from the mounting point of the camera, and you have a astonishing, clear and detailed picture, even if the guy is walking around. So, and the whole scene is still recording. In case of something has happened here, you can still afterwards in the archive have a look at it. It's the same as the live stream. Okay, that was all from my side.
Yeah, so this was, I think, the last slide here, or the last footage, and with that, it's up to me to thank you very much for your interest in today's webinar. We ran over a little bit, apologies for that. And actually we didn't, only 1 minute, and we now can have it open for questions. We hope it was helpful for your projects, your orientation when it comes to most modern, most versatile technology for safe city environments. There's the first question coming in that I thought it was already answered. How many of those concurrent users can I have in the maximum? As I said, there is no technical limitation. Obviously, there's a practical limitation. Once we are up to, I don't know, 20 users or so, you would probably not have enough operators. But there is basically, that's one of the beautiful things of this technology. you can open up as many of those zoom windows as you want. What else is coming in? What are the network bandwidth considerations for the cameras? Frank, can you maybe take this question?
Bandwidth, that's actually depends. We have different possibilities to reduce bandwidth. So bandwidth limitation is actually no problem anymore. Even we can transfer the signals with radio systems. So bandwidth, I can give you just an idea. For example, you need for a Panamera camera, for example, 200 Mbit on bandwidth. So that's not that much. But we have different technical possibilities to drill that down. So.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. There's another question, mounting and calibrating the camera. So that's one I like a lot. Also, because that's another element that plays a lot of or a big role into that whole making things easier consideration that we have. As we know, there is complexity in video installations on very many levels, and one of them is, of course, the mounting process and how do you actually calibrate a camera. I mean, it's self-explaining, I think, that even if you had just 10 single sensor cameras, you want to mount them in such a way that you can have one picture that is synchronized time-wise and optically and so on. It's basically not possible. And with Panamera, we go a few steps further here. The camera system comes pre-calibrated, so it's really mounting, and then we have semi-automated tools to give you the fine-tuning and the last steps in calibration. So that's another advantage of having all that in one system is, of course, it's completely integrated, and there is not much calibration work. Okay. There's another question in here about analytics. Where does analytics take place? It's not a single answer to this question, as I think is known already in the market. There's analytics that take place in the camera itself, even pre-artificial intelligence or neuronal network analytics, VCA. Video content analysis based on motion and pixel comparison takes place in the cameras and can already pre-select a number of events, and then you move it into a recording instance or a server instance for further analytics. It really depends. There is a lot of things that we can already analyze just in the camera. And then, of course, it depends how many objects you want to classify at once, how complex is the situation, and depending on that, typically we recommend a combination of analytics, pre-analytics taking place in the camera, and then further analytics either on the recorder or with a dedicated analysis server. How does DALMA align with current AI in progress regulation, ensuring data privacy and giving confidence to end users? That is actually a very simple question, because those considerations, of course, lie totally in the hands of the end user. Is it the police? Is it the city council who make the decision and put in the regulations in place based on the regulations in a given country? So we are not there. We provide a lot of functionalities that allow things like a 4i principle, so where you can make it technically impossible that only one person looks at a certain video footage. We can do privacy masking, pixelization, and all those things to ensure utmost privacy, all the way up to the privacy shield that on a mechanical basis that Frank showed. But apart from that, we are not, of course, as a vendor involved in political decisions or regulations made by the law. What is this? Maintenance costs, no moving parts compared to PDZ cameras. I like that argument a lot, of course. So that's another big advantage that we have. Can your system be integrated with other VMS open platform softwares? Answer to the question is it depends again. For example, Panamera is integrated in Genitech security, what's the name in total? So yes, we do integrate. In principle, we do integrate with any system that supports ONVIF. And then when you have the really convenient Panamera capabilities, then of course it's a good idea to go either for a VMS system like Genitech that is fully integrated into our capabilities, or use the Dallmayr VMS systems.
And also we can integrate third-party cameras into our video management system, SEMSI.
Yeah, very
the other
good
way around.
point. Yeah. All right. I think we've covered the questions that I see here. Yeah. Again, thank you very much for your time, for your interest in today's webinar. I hope we could give you a good overview in this area of technology for your safe city environments. As said, you will receive the follow-up email shortly. We might edit the recording a little bit, so this might come next week, but you will definitely get a number of follow-up materials already today. And again, thank you very much. Have a nice evening, a good day, depending on where you are on our planet. Stay healthy, as we say nowadays, and hope to hear and see you soon in one of the Dallmayr webinars.
Goodbye, take care.